He built an empire from nothing. But the day she collapsed in his office, everything he believed about love, family, and success was shattered. What began as a miracle soon unraveled into a decades-old secret. A mother in hiding. A brother raised in the shadows. And a powerful man willing to kill to keep the truth buried. Stay till the end, because this story will twist your heart and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about sacrifice and redemption. Before we dive into this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss the life-changing content we share. Like the video and share the channel with someone who needs a story that touches the soul. This is not just storytelling. Every episode carries a deep message, a moral lesson, and a spark of inspiration. Let's grow together. Let's learn together. Welcome to Twisting Tales. She was supposed to die, but a miracle saved her life and exposed a family secret. I was 26 when I made my first million. It felt like winning a war I had been fighting since childhood. I grew up poor. Not the kind of poor where you skip vacations. The kind where you skip meals. My father left. My mother worked 2 jobs and still cried into her pillow every night. I swore I would never let a woman suffer like that again. That promise became my obsession. Money. Success. Power. It consumed me. I built my company from nothing. Slept under my desk. Ate instant noodles in a glass office worth millions. People called me a genius. But they never saw the nights I bled for this. Or the fear I buried beneath the suits and press releases. Then she came. Her name was Alina. She walked into my life like a quiet sunrise. Gentle, unexpected, impossible to ignore. She was not impressed by my wealth. She worked in my office cafeteria. Simple clothes. Warm smile. Eyes that seemed to understand pain. We spoke for the first time over burnt coffee. I apologized. She laughed. Said bitterness makes things stronger if you do not let it break you. That hit me like a punch to the chest. Over months, I found excuses to see her. I asked questions. She asked deeper ones. I showed her numbers. She asked about my childhood. No one had ever looked at me like that. Not through me but into me. I started changing. I slowed down. I smiled more. I remembered why I started. Then it happened. She collapsed in my office. Blood. Panic. Screams. Doctors said it was late-stage leukemia. Aggressive. Unforgiving. They gave her weeks. I sat beside her hospital bed, unable to speak. This woman who rebuilt me from the inside was slipping away. I offered her the best care. She refused. She said no amount of money could undo a ticking clock. But she smiled. Always smiled. Even as her body weakened, her spirit did not. Then one night, she whispered something that changed everything. Do not hate your father, Alex. He loved you more than you know. I froze. No one knew my father's name. I never told her. She closed her eyes. I demanded answers. She would not give them. 2 days later, her condition turned. Unexpectedly. The doctors were stunned. White blood cell counts reversed. Tumors shrunk. They called it a medical mystery. I called it a miracle. But with that miracle came questions. I dug into her past. And found a photograph. Alina, 20 years younger. Smiling beside my father. Her arm around a boy. Me. My heart dropped. She was not just the woman I loved. She was the woman who raised me once before. In secret, in silence, from the shadows. And now, the truth sat heavy in my hands. The lies I believed. The man I hated. The family I thought I lost. I needed to know more. Why did she leave? Why did my father vanish? Why did she come back now, under a different name? And why did her love feel like something I already knew? I returned to the hospital. But her bed was empty. Gone. Not dead. Discharged. Left on her own will. No forwarding address. No phone. No note. Just a ring. The one my father wore. And a letter, sealed in old paper. Addressed to me. Written in my father's handwriting. I stared at the envelope. My hands trembled. The weight of it, far heavier than the paper inside. My father's handwriting. After all these years. Sharp. Familiar. Unmistakable. I broke the seal. Unfolded the letter. And began to read. My son. If you are reading this, it means Alina did what I never had the courage to do. Face the truth. Face you. I failed you, Alex. I failed your mother.
And I failed Alina.
She was never just someone I loved. She was everything. But our love was forbidden. Your mother was the public marriage. Alina, she was the soul I could not live without. When you were born, she gave you up for your safety.
For your future.
It was my decision. My cowardice. My guilt. I watched you grow from a distance.
Every birthday. Every scraped knee. Every trophy. I was there.
You just never saw me.
My chest tightened.
I could barely breathe. My eyes blurred as I gripped the letter harder. This man I spent my life resenting.
He was there all along?
My anger had a home. Now it had no walls. The letter continued. I asked Alina to stay away. She refused. She said a mother's love does not vanish, it only hides where it must. When she fell ill, I begged her not to return. But she said you deserved to know love.
Real love.
Unconditional love. And now, by some grace, she lived.
Do not chase her. She needs time.
Let her find her way back to you.
Not because she is your past.
But because she is your future. You became everything I never had the courage to be. And she saw that in you. That is why she came back. To finish what we both began. To love you freely, finally. I sat there, frozen.
The hospital walls faded.
The noise around me disappeared.
All I could see
was the image of her walking away.
Alina. My mother. My love. The woman who stitched my broken heart.
While hiding the shattered pieces of her own. I left the hospital with one goal.
To find her.
Not for answers.
Not for closure.
But for something far deeper.
Redemption. Reunion. And truth.
The next morning, I returned to my childhood neighborhood.
The one I had escaped. The one she knew too well.
The streets were smaller than I remembered.
The pain bigger.
I walked past the bakery she once pointed at. The one she said made the best honey buns in the city.
And there she was.
Standing quietly under the old oak tree. Wearing a worn-out shawl. Holding a bag of fresh bread.
Our eyes met. Time froze. She smiled. The same smile.
The one that healed me in a cafeteria. The one that held secrets, sorrow, and an ocean of love.
I stepped closer.
Tears already falling.
She whispered.
You found me.
I nodded.
But my voice cracked.
No.
You never left me.
She reached for my hand. It was warm. Steady. Familiar.
Like a lighthouse in a storm I never knew I was trapped in.
And then,
she pulled something from her coat.
A photo. Me. As a child. In her arms.
Beside a younger version of my father.
I touched it, speechless.
I kept this all these years, she said softly. It reminded me of the choice I made. And the hope I never gave up on.
She paused.
Then whispered the words that would change everything again. There is something else, Alex. Something I never told anyone.
My heart pounded.
The street noise around us faded into silence. She looked down at the photo, her fingers trembling slightly.
Then she looked up.
Her eyes were wet.
But not with sorrow. With weight. With memory.
With something she had carried for far too long. There is something else, Alex.
Your father.
He did not just leave.
I held my breath. The world stood still.
She glanced away, as if gathering the courage to step back into a nightmare.
Then she continued.
He was forced to. Those words hit me like a punch to the chest.
What do you mean?
I asked, my voice barely above a whisper.
She took a deep breath.
When I became pregnant with you, your father was being threatened.
Blackmailed.
Someone powerful, someone close to the family, knew about us.
She paused, her voice tightening.
They said if he did not walk away, they would ruin him. Destroy everything. Including you.
My legs grew weak.
I sat on the bench beside her, trying to steady myself. All these years, I believed he abandoned us. But he sacrificed everything.
To protect me.
I begged him to fight, she said, her voice cracking.
But he was terrified. Not for himself. For you. They warned him that if he stayed,
you might not live to see your first birthday. I felt a lump in my throat. This was not a story of betrayal. It was a story of love wrapped in unbearable fear. I clenched my fists.
Who were they? Who did this to him?
She looked me straight in the eyes.
Then she said the name. And my world shifted again.
A name I knew. A name I trusted. A name etched on every contract, every check, every boardroom I ever stepped into.
My godfather.
The man who funded my first investment. The man who mentored me. The man who claimed to be my protector.
Alina nodded slowly. He knew who you were. From the beginning. He watched you rise.
Because he created the fall that made it possible. My entire body went cold.
Every achievement, every deal, every false smile
was a brick built on betrayal. And suddenly, everything made sense. Why he was always there. Why he always warned me not to dig into the past. Why he once said, "Some truths are more dangerous than lies."
I stood up,
staring into the distance. My chest felt like it would shatter.
But then, a hand touched mine. Gentle, grounding.
Alina looked at me, her voice calm and steady. Your father was not weak.
He was brave.
He lost everything, so you could live.
I nodded, silent, broken, but somehow, whole.
Because in that moment, I knew. My story was never about money. It was never about building an empire. It was about rediscovering the roots.
The truth.
The love that had been hidden beneath decades of silence.
And now, that truth had a name, a face, a mission. I looked down at her.
And said with a voice full of resolve, I am going to expose him.
Not for revenge, but for justice. For my father. For you.
For every piece of me that was stolen and sold under his name.
She nodded, then whispered,
Then you must be ready, Alex. Because what he did to your father was only the beginning.
My pulse quickened.
Alina's words echoed like thunder in my mind. Only the beginning. I stared at her, trying to read between the lines. But her eyes said enough.
There was more. Much more.
How much do you know?
I asked. My voice was hoarse. She hesitated, then reached into her shawl.
Pulled out a small, folded notebook.
Leather-bound.
Worn at the corners. Tied with a faded red string. She placed it in my hand.
Firmly.
Deliberately. This was your father's journal, she said softly. He gave it to me, the night before he disappeared.
Disappeared. Not died. Not left. Disappeared.
I untied the string slowly. Every motion felt like unraveling my childhood.
Inside.
Dozens of handwritten pages.
Dates. Locations. Names. Initials. Notes in hurried pen.
Drawings of maps. Code phrases. And one sentence, circled in bold ink. Trust no one from the inner circle. My fingers stopped. The air grew heavier. The inner circle?
I whispered. Alina nodded.
Your godfather, he was not alone.
He had help.
Legal, political, financial. People your father once called brothers.
I clenched my jaw.
The very foundation of the business world I had climbed
was infected.
She continued. They used your father's downfall to rise. They wanted him out of the way, so they could control what he was building.
A chill ran down my spine.
The legacy I inherited was not just built on sacrifice.
It was stolen, orchestrated,
crafted by hands that murdered dreams and buried loyalty.
Alina touched my arm.
There is something else in that journal. Page 23. I turned to it. The page was stiff. The ink darker than the rest. A name I had never seen before.
But beside it, a photo, taped to the paper. A child,
no older than 5.
With my eyes, my father's nose,
and a woman standing behind him. Her face blurred in the photo.
But familiar.
Terrifyingly familiar. I looked up at Alina, confused.
She nodded slowly. Yes.
That boy is your brother. Everything inside me collapsed. All these years I believed I was alone.
The only heir. The only burden bearer. But somewhere, there was someone else. My blood. My brother. I searched Alina's face. She was calm.
But sadness lined her smile. After your father vanished, she said, they took the boy. I tried to find him. But they hid him well. He was the insurance policy.
My voice cracked. Why?
Why would they do that?
She swallowed hard.
Because your father created something.
Something powerful.
More than just money.
A network.
An encrypted system of influence and information. They needed his bloodline to control it.
And now? I asked.
She looked at me with quiet certainty. They are coming for you, Alex. Because now, you are the last piece. My breath caught in my throat. Every deal I ever made, every hand I ever shook, suddenly felt like a chess move in someone else's game. But now, the game was changing, and I was no longer playing blind. I stood up, clutched the notebook to my chest. I am going to find him, I said. My brother. And when I do, we will finish what our father started. Alina stood with me. A single tear slid down her cheek, but her voice was steady. Then remember this. The ones you trust most may be the ones who fear the truth the deepest. She stepped closer, whispered in my ear. Start with the foundation records. Look for a name they erased. She knows where your brother is. I turned to her. She. Alina looked away, then said softly, your mother. My breath caught. The silence between us stretched thin. My mother? I had spent a lifetime believing she was gone. Buried in a grave I was too young to remember. Her name spoken only in whispers. Like a ghost no one dared awaken. I stepped back stunned. You told me she died. Alina lowered her eyes. I told you what you were ready to believe. My voice rose, sharper than I intended. So she is alive? She nodded. Yes. But she lives a life far from this world. Hidden, quiet, invisible by choice. I sank onto the bench again. The ground beneath me was no longer solid. Everything I knew fractured. My mother. My father. My brother. All pieces of a puzzle I never knew existed. Alina sat beside me, her voice soft but firm. After your father disappeared, she vanished too. But not out of grief. Out of survival. She knew they would come for her next. My hands trembled as I gripped the journal. She left me, I whispered. She left me to grow up thinking I had no one. Alina turned to me. No. She left you so you could live. She trusted me to watch over you. To stay close without getting caught. I looked into her eyes. And I saw it. The pain. The burden. The choices no mother should ever have to make. Where is she now? I asked. Alina hesitated. She changes locations. Rarely stays more than a few months. But the last time I heard from her, she was working under a new identity. In a rural clinic. Somewhere in the north. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her coat pocket. A name written in faded ink. No address. Just a name. Elena Volkov. My hands closed around the paper. It felt like holding a part of myself I had never known. She will not trust you easily, Alina said. She has spent decades erasing her past. I nodded. Then I will earn her trust. Even if it takes the rest of my life. Alina smiled faintly. For her. You are still a boy with a broken heart. She never stopped loving you. She just stopped believing the world could love you back. The weight of her words filled my chest. I stood slowly, the paper in one hand, the journal in the other. I had come searching for closure. Instead, I had found a beginning. A brother. A mother. A legacy buried under lies. And now, a purpose greater than revenge. As I turned to leave, Alina called after me. Alex. I paused. Looked back. Be careful, she said. They already know you are looking. My spine stiffened. A chill slid through me. I nodded. Then stepped into the street. One step closer to the truth. But as I walked away, I could feel it. Eyes watching. Shadows shifting. And somewhere, someone waiting. Someone who had everything to lose. If I found what was mine. And deep down, I knew. The next door I opened might not close again. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Every phone call. Every knock at my door. Every unfamiliar car parked too long outside my building. Tightened a noose I could not see but could feel around my neck. I left the city under the cover of darkness. No assistance. No security detail. No private jet. Just me. A beaten-up rental car. My father's journal in the glove box. And a name on a paper that shook the earth beneath my feet. Elena Volkov. The drive north was long and quiet. Pine forests swallowed the horizon. Old towns passed in a blur. Rust on rooftops. Children playing barefoot in dust. A world far from stock markets and boardrooms. I followed the traces. Clinic records. Pharmacy shipments. Anonymous donations made in cash, all pointing to one remote village near the border. A place so forgotten, even the road signs had stopped trying. And then I saw it. A small building with a green roof.
A wooden cross above the door.
Children lined up with scraped knees and shy smiles. A woman in a white coat knelt beside them, bandaging wounds. Laughing softly. My heart stopped. I knew that laugh. Not from memory, but from something deeper. Something in my bones. My blood. My breath. She turned. And the world just stilled. Time folded inward. There she was. My mother. Older. Thinner. Hair streaked with silver. But her eyes. Those eyes were mine. And they were staring right at me. Her smile faded. She rose slowly. Took a step forward. Then stopped. As if unsure whether I was real. Or a ghost from a life she had buried. Elena, I called softly. The name felt foreign in my mouth. Like trying to speak in a dream. She did not answer. Just looked at me. Tears forming, but not falling. It is me, I said. My name is Alex. Still. No words. Just silence. And the trembling of hands that had once held me. I stepped closer. Pulled the photo from my pocket. The one from my father's journal. I held it up. Showed her the boy. Her son. Me. She gasped. Her knees buckled. She reached out. And I caught her. We stood there. In the middle of a forgotten village. Wrapped in a moment 30 years in the making. She whispered. Alexei. I closed my eyes. I had not heard that name in a lifetime. Yes, Mama. It is me. She buried her face into my chest. Her sobs shook through both of us. I thought I would never see you again, she cried. I thought they would erase you. I held her tighter. They tried. But they failed. After a long silence, she pulled away just enough to look into my eyes. Then she said something I was not ready for. You are not safe here. They know I am alive. I froze. How? She glanced toward the trees behind the clinic. There was a man here yesterday. Said he was bringing medicine. But his questions, his eyes, they were not kind. A chill ran through me. I looked back toward my car. Suddenly, it felt too exposed. Too obvious. Mama, I said firmly. We have to go. Now. She nodded. Already moving. But before she entered the building, she turned to me again. There is one more thing you need to know, she said. They told me your brother died. My heart sank. No. He is alive. Alina told me. She cut me off. I know. I never believed them. But if he lived, then he is in danger. Because they will never let both of you survive. At that moment, the sound of an engine roared in the distance. A black SUV. Dust kicking up behind it. Windows tinted. Moving fast. Too fast. I grabbed her hand. Pulled her toward the back of the clinic. Toward the forest. Because now I knew. This was no longer about discovery. This was survival. And somewhere out there, my brother was waiting. We ran deep into the forest. Branches whipped past our faces. Leaves cracked beneath our feet. Behind us, the SUV's tires screeched to a halt. Doors slammed. Voices shouted. But we did not stop. I held my mother's hand tightly, as if letting go might erase everything I had just found. My lungs burned, but my heart was calm. Because for the first time in my life, I was not running from pain. I was running with purpose. We reached a clearing. A small, hidden cabin. Old. Quiet. Safe. One of the few places left untouched by the past. Inside, we sat by the dim glow of a fireplace. My mother reached into a box buried beneath the floorboards. Inside, another journal. But this one was different. It was not my father's. It was hers. She handed it to me. This, she whispered, is everything I could never say to you. I opened it. Page after page. Years of pain. Of sacrifice. Of silent love. And longing. It spoke of the day she let me go. The night she disappeared. The people she feared. And the son she dreamed of. Every single day. I closed the book. Tears filled my eyes. I am here now, I said. And we will finish this. Together. In the weeks that followed, we traveled across countries, following the trail of my brother.
Piece by piece,
We uncovered the truth.
he had been taken,
Raised under another name. Trained to forget who he was.
but blood remembers.
And so does the soul. When I found him, he did not know me.
Not at first.
But when I handed him our father's journal,
He read every word. And he cried.
not for the past he lost, but for the future we could still build. We confronted the men who betrayed our family. Not with violence,
But with truth. With evidence. With light.
their empire crumbled under the weight of their secrets. And ours rose.
Not with power. But with peace.
Today, I sit on the board of the foundation my father once dreamed of. A network of truth.
Justice.
And second chances.
Alina visits often.
My mother tends to the clinic once more. And my brother. He stands beside me.
Not in revenge.
But in restoration. And this is what I have learned. Sometimes, the deepest scars are not visible. They are hidden beneath success.
Buried under pride.
And disguised as strength.
But healing begins.
When you stop running from the truth. And start running toward it. Family is not just who raises you. It is who protects your soul.
Even in silence. Even in sacrifice.
Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering with wisdom. It is choosing peace over poison.
And love. Real love.
Is never lost. It is only waiting.
To be found again.
So if you are carrying pain, if you are chasing answers,
Keep going. Because sometimes,
the story that almost broke you becomes the one that saves someone else.
that is the twist.
That is the miracle. That is the lesson.
Let love lead. Let truth guide.
And never underestimate the power of one soul who chooses to forgive. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and let someone know. You are never alone.